Welcome back to Following Nodon, a Stormlight podcast. This week is episode 149, and we are continuing our venture into the Way of King's Epigraphs, specifically the Death Rattles. We are going to be finishing the part 4 Epigraphs today. We stopped about halfway through in our part 1, so if you want to hear those ones, go back to last week's, but here is this week's. Paul, how are you?
So great. Random thing that I just need to get off my chest right quick. I don't know if most of you listening probably don't realize or see at all, but I'm living in a new house right now, and I have had no idea what to do with lighting for where my desk is set up in a small bedroom, and I feel like I finally got it a little bit better. It's like softer lighting, but still light in front of me instead of like a light bulb behind me. And so it's just been a big mess, but I feel like I've gotten something I'm kind of happy with. Um, this doesn't matter at all for you listening in the slightest, but it's just something that I've been thinking about. So I just wanted to share.
But
So
you feel good
you're
about it
welcome.
now, so
Exactly.
yeah.
It feels nice. The setup is kind of jank. I have this light that's like on a little tripod, and I've kind of just literally set that tripod over the top of my monitor,
Balancing.
so it's just balancing there. So I will try not to touch my monitor, and also it's like the weight of it has my monitor like tilted a little bit, which is actually the obnoxious part, and I will take it off right after we're done recording. But it's kind of
but
funny
but just to be
for
clear,
right
you're
now.
happy with it.
Yes, I think it looks much better. I'm very pleased.
Elliot, how are you?
Not nearly as complicated as that. I'm ready to jump into some Stormlight, get my mind melted by some epigraphs that I had completely forgotten existed.
Indeed. So last week we ended off with an epigraph that at first we read it and we're like, okay, that's pretty depressing. And then we kind of looked at it for 10 minutes, 12 minutes, and just kept going, oh, what if it was this character? Oh, what if it was that character? And just kept going and going. And I feel like we are going to have more of that, more of the same this week. We're gonna we're gonna kick off with quite the epigraph today. Either of you want to read it?
Um, Before we do, should we bring up any of those former highlights or maybe lowlights of the really sad ones, or should we just hop straight in?
I I think we can just go ahead. The chapter,
Yeah,
if you need to reference something from last week, go ahead. But
I'm just still emotionally hurt about chapter 55. That's all I will say. I literally feel pain for the epigraph there and the theories we thought about for it. Anyways, I would love to start us off. If you're
go for
right,
it.
I believe we left off at chapter 57, which is the Wander Sale. Maybe
Yes.
I shouldn't have volunteered because it is extremely graphic and sad, so that's your warning now as a listener. I hold the suckling child in my hands, a knife at his throat, and know that all who live wish me to let the blade slip, spill its blood upon the ground, over my hands, and with it gain us further breath to draw. Well, any predictions, guys? What discussion?
I
I
have I
don't
have
know
I
what
have
to
two
say.
thoughts, but Elliot, you can go
Uh,
first.
Might need your thoughts to spin off of because I want to go certain directions, but then other bits of this are kind of wrecking that. So what do you have?
So there's two problems with this one. Obviously, we've not seen it, right? Like I don't think that's a question if we've seen it or not. If you want to dispute that, feel free. But I'm going to proceed with that premise that we've not seen it. If we have not seen it, you have to take this either literally or figuratively. Specifically, the suckling child. The suckling child is either a literal infant, less than a year old, or an innocent person. That there are two ways you can interpret that. If it is a suckling child that is innocence incarnate, right? There's going to be some person that needs to sacrifice an innocent person, whether that be a literal infant or someone who is innocent. Um, maybe not less than a year old. So and with that being said, if you go literal, I don't know if we have a suckling child other than Oriden, who is 3 at this point, right? That's the only
Maybe
child
three.
we have, right?
I- I'm under the assumption that if this were the case, if this was something that we were going to see, and it is literal, like a literal child, then it's either something that has happened in the past that will come up, or this is something that we don't even know who it is. Like it's some child that's
Random child
unbeknownst
A,
to us.
right?
Yeah, maybe not even random. I don't know who it could be, but in my head, it's almost like a flashback kind of thing. But I don't know what kind of significance you'd have with that. I really don't know how that would work. Literally, I'll be honest.
I can tackle that maybe a little bit by really zooming in on a few of the words in these two sentences. The second sentence says, spill its blood upon the ground, referencing to the child as it,
Mm-hmm.
which I think gives us another two options in addition to your two options, which is either it's literal, it is a suckling child in that I think some people do refer to children that small as an it. It hasn't necessarily developed like a personality yet. The sentence also says a knife at his throat earlier, but the it to me suggests a literal child. If this was just an innocent person, you'd probably say him instead of it.
Right.
Unless option 2 would be if this is a being of such higher power than, say, a human, that it might refer to a human as it. If we're talking about, an odium or something like that, referring to a Kaladin as it or something of that nature. But I
All
think
right.
that leans me towards a literal child.
Okay. I just thought about something though. So we do get a his throat, right?
Yes.
Like
Yep.
his pronoun there,
Yep.
and so thinking about a suckling child as like a innocent kind of helpless person, right? Could this be Hoyd post like memory wipe? This is also like and someone is killing, let's say Todium. Todium is gonna kill Hoyd. A lot of people don't like Hoyd. Um
So
but he's also like very
hold on.
powerful.
Who is who? You lost me.
Okay. I'm saying that Hoyd is the suckling child, or like the innocent person, that like post
Okay.
memory wipe.
Okay.
Because I don't know what Hoyd will look like whenever we get there.
Sure.
No idea. So it's really, this is really like headcanon ridiculous theory. But another thing which made me think of that is this is from the Wandersail chapter also. So just like, I mean, that's just like a mild dot to connect, which is not that important. But I don't know there'd be a lot of steps that would have to go to get there. But I'm just trying to think of, I don't know, that's just a really ridiculous theory that I thought of. Um,
Okay. Just
I
just to reel us back in here for a second. Show of hands. Do you think this is a literal child or not? Yes or no? I am yes.
I agree.
I'm under the assumption that this is not a literal child.
It
If
is
if it's something that we will actually see. If it's random death rattle, then it probably is a literal child.
okay.
The second part of this that I'm getting stuck on is the last clause, that the somehow the death of this child and with it gain us further breath to draw. the implication there seems to be if I kill this child, we all get to live longer. I'm trying to
Surely,
That's
think of a
what doesn't
scenario.
make sense to me.
chi- child child champion for Odium. That's fairly pretty self-explanatory, right?
I
That's fair.
guess.
That's the only situation I can think of where that would be the case, unless it's some.
That where
I
Teravangian
don't know.
deliberately picks someone he knows Dalinar will not kill.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or unless we're getting into some weird time jumping thing, which I don't think will happen.
But so yeah, I don't think that will happen either. But my brain then goes to, is it just random child A that Dalinar is not willing to kill? Or are we going to know this child? And then my brain goes, okay, who's pregnant? Nobody's pregnant. Does Shallan know? Is Shallan pregnant and she doesn't know it?
Is Yasna?
Is Navani pregnant and doesn't know it? Like that's where my brain is right now. Is Navani pregnant and hasn't told anyone?
I think the only relationship we've
Or
had alluded to that is Yasna, potentially. There may be others, but that's what I'm thinking of as far as like a weird kind of not really talked about that much, but hinted at
Mm-hmm.
relationship. I think that's possible.
what if this is like a self-fulfilling prophecy? So these are death rattles, right?
Uh-huh.
Which Teravangian is collecting. So this information is in Teravangian's hands. I pulled up the chapter just to look at it because sometimes the like date that it gives to it is interesting. If you read this one, chapter 57, it adds a little note after the dated such and such, blah, 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 23 seconds pre death. It says this sample is of particular note.
Ooh.
What if, exactly what you're describing is what this is referencing? It is a child or some kind of innocent person is chosen as the Odium's champion by Haravangian Odium because he heard this death rattle and it created the idea in his mind to do this because he heard this death rattle. He notes it in his notes, samples of particular note,
Yeah. I really like that a lot.
I'd be curious to
which
see if
then
that
gets
one comes
into
to fruition.
it does potentially create some weird like time loop questions
Yeah.
of like if this is an event that Teravangian does do because he heard this death rattle predicting an event in the future, like, but if he didn't, then what? Like, that gets real confusing,
Do you,
but it might fit.
do you guys think there's any chance that this is Oradin, Kaladin's little brother,
Yes,
and the suckling
there's a
child
chance.
is rather metaphorical? It's an innocent child, but it's the child's still like 3, right?
Yes,
Yeah, that's very possible.
plausible.
Okay.
But then I don't know if it. I mean, it does say, and a knife at his throat, and know that all who live wish me to let the blade slip. Do you think everyone would want? Or I don't know. That's probably reading
Yeah, it
into it
doesn't
too
quite match.
literally. It's just probably like everyone there watching would want him to win to save humanity, right?
Right.
So I'm probably overreading into that. So
What if we're probably spending way too much time on this? The only other scenario I can come up with based on that line of thinking, Paul, is what if somehow, some way that I can't even think of now, a child or an innocent person becomes the vessel of odium, and Teravangian at some point becomes no longer odium through death or some other way, and like Oridin or equivalent random child A literally becomes odium. Now at that point, does it fit in with what this is saying? Seems a bit far fetched, but could maybe tie in what you're asking about.
this was my initial thought. I don't know how that would happen at all,
Yeah,
but unless it's something where like we talked about a child being not like appointed as the champion, let's just say some crazy rule slip happens or someone kills Odium like during that time, and the vessel becomes the child that was appointed. Who knows? But either way, it is like it is like ridiculous to think, and yeah, who
Yeah.
knows?
I don't know.
That one's kind of crazy.
What's Elokar's son's name? Trivia time. Come on, let's go.
I totally forgot.
I completely
Oh
forgot as
man,
well.
Gavinor.
There you go. Nice job.
Gavinor, nice.
Is this
That
Gavinor?
was an initial
Could it
prediction
be?
for us. Yeah,
Could
Gavinor,
really be.
he has
um,
like
he has a relationship with Dalinar.
yeah.
Yeah.
It is a personal connection for sure. That would be the
Ooh.
most personal one, and that was one of our first predictions of who the champion might be because of that, because of the difficulty for Dalinar in that.
Right.
And that might remove some of the difficulty with Oridin in that line of "and all who live, wish me to let the blade slip." There's not nearly as many people that would be stuck on murdering Gavinor as there would be Oridin.
I understand what you're saying. It's pretty depressing, but I understand what you're saying.
Super cynical, yes, and
This
that
whole
I'm sure lots of
conversation
people would
is
have a problem. Yeah.
yeah. This is like the most depressing epigraph you could ever read. So
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I don't know where to go with that.
All right. Um, anything else before we move on?
Let's move on.
Okay. Not that I don't have more to say on it, but I do think we should move on. Chapter 58, titled The Journey. Ray Shafir, the Midnight Mother, giving birth to abominations with her essence so dark, so terrible, so consuming. She is here. She watches me die. This one's pretty solved, right?
And also not super important, it seems. I mean, Race appears here. That's kind of all I'm taking out of this.
Hmm.
Gonna say this feels more applicable to like as you're entering the story, being introduced to the unmade kind of thing. It doesn't feel relevant to us right now.
Right.
Yeah.
It's this probably is somewhere around Dalinar's vision of the Midnight Essence. It's probably somewhere in that
Yeah.
ballpark. So Elliot, do you want to go for 59?
Chapter 59. Above the final void I hang, friends behind, friends before. The feast I must drink clings to their faces, and the words I must speak spark in my mind. The old oaths will be spoken.
Great epigraph, by the way. Think it's solved though.
I think it's just the resurgence of the Knights Radiant, right? Old
It's
oaths will be spoken anew.
it's specifically Kaladin leaping over the bridge at the end of the Way of Kings, and there's Stormlight in the beards
Yeah.
of the Parshendi, and he sucks it out of their beads.
Oh yeah.
Specifically though, I like that it says friends behind, friends before. Nice foreshadowing to Kaladin's journey with the singers and the listeners and what he
Yeah.
goes through in the beginning of Oathbringer. I'm fairly certain this one's pretty solved.
It is. It's actually kind of impressive how literal it is.
Yeah.
The feast I must drink clings to their faces, being the gemstones
Yeah.
in their beards.
Hmm.
The friends behind, friends before, and the words I must speak spark in my mind. That is like remarkably spot on.
Yeah.
Chapter 60 then. From chapter 60 we have the death is my life. The strength becomes my weakness. The journey has ended.
I have no idea.
I feel like the thing to hold on to here to analyze, which I don't have an idea of, but it says the strength becomes my weakness.
Is this someone debonding a Spren?
Like an unoath.
Yeah. This is the like obviously this is the inverse of the first oath, but it could you take that literally and saying they are becoming unbecoming a Knight Radiant?
I think this is someone dying. I don't think this is someone doing that because they're saying the death is my life. Like it's almost like saying my death now is like the purpose of my life. Like almost laying your life down for a cause, for something. It feels like that to me. I don't get the strength becomes my weakness. I can't think of anyone that may be,
I have another thought,
you
but if
know?
you have something, Elliot, go. Okay,
For
okay.
it.
Hold on. Spin this in Moash's idea. The death is my life. The strength becomes my weakness. The journey has ended. Could you feasibly say that the strength becomes my weakness, meaning odium taking my pain gave me strength before, but I now acknowledge is a weakness. The the death of that is the only way to proceed with my life. The journey. I don't know if I don't know. This is a half a thought. What?
I could I see what you mean, and I actually agree that I think that is a really, really great like prediction. I don't think this is like a change of heart moment. I think this is a like he has died and realized his weakness was his quote strength. Something like that. Like in that vein, not in a I genuinely just believe that this is about someone actually dying, not like literally dying, not like a figurative or like a Nile Bond thing.
Uh-huh. Do you think this
I
is
can't
Moash's version of the first ideal as he dies?
I think that's extremely possible, personally.
I don't know if I quite follow that. This seems more like an inversion of the oath and
Yeah.
not a bridging from Moash's view to the oath. This this seems to say the opposite of what the oath says. And
Yeah, and
so
I think that's kind of fitting.
in in a
And
Moash sense, maybe, but not in my mind as a way for him to bridge back to Night Radiant, which I felt like was where you were going with that.
no, it's not a bridging back. It's like almost he's the death is my life is how this starts, and I feel like let's say no change of heart, he dies. He's almost he's kind of glad about it almost like a little bit glad because
Okay.
he feels like a freedom from his pain, if that makes sense, or at least the anxiousness of giving away his pain, whatever, all the messed up stuff from the death is
Okay.
my life. The strength becomes my weakness, maybe why he dies. The weakness created by him getting that strength from odium. The journey has ended. Just dramatic last words kind of thing. I don't think it's like a twisting or like a bridge to become a Knight Radiant. I think it's just he's anti Knight Radiant, and this is like the antithesis of the first ideal. Is
Is that what you were
antithesis the
thinking,
right word? Is
Trevor?
that an opposite?
I want a completely different direction in my head.
I think so.
I have another
I
option, but go ahead.
I'll just I think my 2 cents on this one is I think this is saying the opposite of what our first ideal is saying.
Right.
And so this for me feels like a closing the chapter on Knight's radiantness, whether that's for one individual, which is what I think you were talking about initially, Trevor, which would be debonding,
Right.
or whether this is like Dalinar takes on the mantle of leader of the entire Knights Radiant, and then at the end of our story decides that the Knights Radiant is now over and that we will no longer have any Knights Radiant, and this is the oath to end all oaths,
Yeah.
basically. A symmetrical closing of the story,
He
if you will.
he takes up honor and then closes the
Mm.
shop, right? Like closes the
Yeah.
Nile bond.
Yeah,
Right.
I could kind of see that.
Like I could almost see this. Brandon's not usually this dramatic, but like this could be the last line of book 5.
Hmm.
This could be the final words that Dalinar speaks that ends the whole book.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I like that a lot more than what I'm about to say. Um, Zeth. Could you throw
Mm.
Zeth on this? And for whatever reason, he debonds his Skybreaker Spren and dies in Stormlight 5.
I could see. I mean, I could see that. Um, there's a lot there. I genuinely think it would be way more fitting as a last words moment from Moash at the moment. But I could definitely see that happening with any of our like really angsty characters. It would make it sounds sort of fitting at least.
Right. Whoever's saying this is quite dramatic. We'll just put it that way.
Yes.
Yes.
Which could be Dalinar, could be Zeth, could be Moash. All of them are fairly dramatic. All right. Elliot, you want to go for 61?
Sure. In the storm I awaken, falling, spinning, grieving.
Answered.
End of Rhythm of War,
End of
right?
Rhythm of War.
The
Right?
when the
Yeah.
paladin's like plummeting downward.
After meeting with Tien, he snaps awake to save his father. That's what this is.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Solved.
62, Paul?
The darkness becomes a palace. Let it rule. Let it rule. I don't really have an idea.
Me neither. What
Personally.
did I write as my notes? Nothing. Oh,
Maybe
I wrote the
The
Heart of the
Heart of the
Revel
Rebel.
question mark.
I think it's just the word palace, but it is making me think of Polinar and the scenes that we've saw there, both with either the Heart of the Rebel or the one that takes over
Yelignar.
Aesudan. Yeah,
Yeah.
with like perhaps let it rule, let it rule. Not sure. Kind of vague.
It,
Yeah, it sounds like a general evil henchman cheering for the big bad evil good
mhm.
person, you know.
It could easily be something that Aesudan said, surrendering the palace to the Heart of the Revel. It could be something that Amaram said when swallowing the sphere for Yelignar. Like it could be quite a bit.
Agree.
Um, 63, unless you guys have anything else for that one. Titled Fear. I wish to sleep. I know now why you do what you do, and I hate you for it. I will not speak of the truths I see. This one's pretty easy and self-explanatory, right? It's it's not a death rattle. This person is coherent, right? And not going to say their death rattle,
Oh, I
right?
was just assuming these were all death rattles, but I mean it makes sense.
This person has now realized why all these people are dying in the hospital and saying, I'm not going to tell you what my death rattle is because screw you.
All right.
Yeah, I guess the only other spin on that would be that it's a intentional misdirect from Brandon, and that's what you're supposed to think it is, and
Okay.
then it does have an actual meaning. And the only reason I might cling to that is the idea of truths in there. I'm expecting that to be something we dive into more in book 5, called the Knights of Wind and Truth,
Hmm.
and that being a big element of Zeth's story is what is truth? What is the source of truth? I don't know. It's probably just literal, and like you said, not a death battle.
Whose turn is it?
I think it's Elliot's because I read
Got it.
62.
64. They come from the pit, 2 dead men, heart in their hands, and I know that I have seen true glory.
Huh?
Dead men, 2 dead men,
2 dead
heart
men,
in
a
hands.
heart in their hands, to know they have seen true glory.
Oh, wait a minute. Men is
Is
a
that
problem, but is it
yeah,
Shallan and
and
Kaladin coming
Kaladin
out of the
coming out of
chasms?
the That's what I was thinking. And I think that's got to be it. Right? Because they
Oh,
come out with the gem heart, right?
Yeah.
yeah.
Heart in their hands, and I know they have seen true glory.
Yeah, maybe.
I think it's that.
Feasible. Yeah.
I can't think of anything else for this one personally. Maybe like Kaladin and Zeth Book 5, something. Who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's probably Kaladin and Shallan.
Cool. Okay, chapter 65, The Tower. I see them. They are the rocks. They are the vengeful spirits, eyes of red. That's
But
just the fused, right?
Thunderclass specifically, I think.
Okay. They are the rocks. I guess that makes more sense for a thunderclast.
Yeah.
I think.
Yep.
Did we see a single Thunderclass in Rhythm of War? Were they even mentioned? Oh, Yasna kills one in a fight scene, just like randomly, I think.
She kills one. Oh, that's right. Wait. At,
She's
You're a Thiru?
no in
no,
her
it's.
in her battle sequence in like part 4. She's
I
off.
was.
She's leading the battlefield.
Oh. Yeah, I don't remember that, but it might have happened.
Or maybe it's just fused. I don't know.
I thought it was. I don't think it was the thunderclast. I feel like that would have been a bigger deal. I'm picturing that scene as like the end of Oathbringer with the kind of Avengers Assemble scene
Mhm.
Yeah.
leading up to
There's
that when
there's certainly
Yasna's
2
kind of
Thunderclass
floating around.
there, but I don't know if there's a Thunderclass in Rhythm before.
I don't think there is. Not that I remember. Makes you curious.
Anyway, chapter 66, codes. That chanting, that singing, those rasping voices. This is probably just the summoning of the Everstorm, right?
Seems like it. Can't think of anything else it would be.
Yeah, the what were they called? Just the singers or the void
Mhm.
singers or whatever. Yeah, it's probably that.
All right. Whoever's next can go.
With me, I got it.
Think so.
Let me no longer hurt. Let me no longer weep. Diagonarthus, the black fisher, holds my sorrow and consumes it.
Have we ever had an answer with the Black Fisher? Was that an unmade?
I just I just copper minded it. You want me to read off the copper mind real quick?
Ooh, before you do, my guess is it the? No, I think I'm wrong. I was thinking it was the Spren we saw in the water in an interlude, like the evil Spren, the like unmade Spren.
That was a
But
Thunderclass
oh
because it
yeah,
pops out as a rock monster thing.
ah,
Um, I just copper minded Diagon Arthas real quick, and the same um epigraph is titled here. Diagon Arthas is believed to be one of the Unmade, unconfirmed, an ancient and terrible spread of odium. They also seem to be known as the Black Fisher. Hesse points in Mythica that Diagon Arthas may have been involved in the scouring of Aemia, although she's unsure of the specifics. She also expresses uncertainty that they are one of the Unmade at all. However, it seems likely that Diagon Arthas is truly the final Unmade, as Yezrian, in the guise of Ahu, refers to the Black Fissure together with 2 other Unmade, Ray Shafir and Moalak, during one of his conversations with Dalinar. Additionally, the name Diagonarthus is used in a death rattle collected by the Silent Gatherers in a manner similar to death rattles about the Unmade, Ray Shafir, and Yelignar. That is the entire page on Diagonarthus. That is it.
wow. Well, that seems pretty accurate though. Like I don't have much to combat that, I think.
The only thing I
The
might add
Ahu
to
point
this,
is what honestly solidified it in my
yeah,
mind.
yeah, I'm fully on that boat that this seems to be another of our unmade we haven't seen. I'm actually curious about the holds my sorrow and consumes it. That sounds very, very Moash to me.
Ooh.
Almost as if like almost as if what Odium is doing with Moash could be through this Diagonarthus
Oh,
thing.
he just sticks Diagonarthus on him, and that's
Yeah.
how he just follows Moash around. That's so
Yeah,
cool.
And that's what
I
this
mean,
unmade does is it can take your emotions or your sorrow and just kind of consume it and feed off of it so that you don't feel it.
And that's why he feels his pain when the tower turns on, because Diagonarthus is shoved out of the tower before he is.
It does bring up some
that would
interesting
make
questions in
sense.
that scenario is, yeah, what exactly is the tower blocking? Is it Odium? Is it this Diagonarthus? Is it Diagonarthus had to flee in that moment and couldn't do what it was doing for Moash? Not quite sure how that would work, but
That's really cool. I like that.
I do. Interesting. Elliot solving puzzles once again.
Nice, nice. All right, who's next?
I am chapter 68, Esh and I. They named it the Final Desolation, but they lied. Our gods lied. Oh, how they lied. The Everstorm comes. I hear its whispers, see its storm wall, know its heart.
the Everstorm.
Yeah, but I think there's a couple grammatical things in here that are interesting. Specifically, gods, plural. I
Yeah, it
would,
is lowercase.
yeah,
So
lowercase gods, plural, either means one of two things. It's either a Vorin talking about a herald, because the herald's named it the Final Desolation, or it's a singer talking about or a singer talking about a spren or fused, because they refer to
Yeah.
sprens as gods. If this is from the perspective of a singer, it becomes a little bit more interesting.
I'm leaning towards it is a singer. I feel like the ending, I hear its whispers, see its storm wall, know its heart. The know its heart is what has made me question the most. But I feel like that could be pretty attuned to how they hear the rhythms
Right.
of Roshara and all the things. Like I feel like they'd probably just like hear the rhythm or feel the rhythm of the Everstorm, perhaps, and kind of know that I mean, I don't know how to say this less like this, but they just kind of know the vibes of things by the rhythm of it.
And it could be one of those listeners that escaped and was not in the summoning of the Everstorm and knows that the Everstorm does not have their best intentions in mind, because Esh and I successfully wins over like 80% or whatever it is of the singers, or of the listeners. They summon the Everstorm, but some of them escape and come back at the end of Rhythm of War, right? Um, so it could be one of them that feels the Everstorm coming and is views this as the final desolation of the Everstorm coming.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. Chapter 69. This is our last one, titled Justice. All is withdrawn for me. I stand against the one who saved my life. I protect the one who killed my promises. I raise my hand. The storm responds. Might be here for a while.
Mm. So I think the last part of this narrows in our focus, at least it seems to. Who raises their hand and the storm responds?
Two
Well,
people.
Dalinar
Dalinar is my
and
first
sometimes
thought.
Kaladin.
Kaladin sometimes. Kaladin
So
splits the wind
those seem
for in Oathbringer.
he he's also storm blessed. He just kind of wields the storm.
Right.
Dalinar a little more literally
Right.
wields the Stormfather. So those two seem the obvious candidates right here as far as who is I. The rest of this gets a little more complex unless we're completely misreading that last sentence.
The
Last bit.
middle two sentences are so crazy though. I stand
That's
against the
what I.
one who saved my life. I protect the one who killed my promises.
That's what I've been. That's what I've really been
Those are
wrestling with. Are
those
those
are
two sentences?
crazy.
Yeah. Also, the title of this chapter is Justice, and I just can't help but think that this is all that is also tied in here. But I mean, obviously, I'm thinking of our like big implication characters. I'm thinking of Dalinar. I'm thinking of Kaladin. I'm thinking of Moash. I don't.
Kaladin has saved Dalinar's life. Dalinar has saved Kaladin's life.
Yeah.
I'm thinking more on the I protect the one who killed my promises.
What does that
I'm
mean?
thinking. I'm thinking. Could you say? Could you say that Moash killed Kaladin's promise to protect Elokar?
Kaladin killed his promise to Moash to help him kill Elokar.
I guess. Yeah. Wait.
But the inverse is also true that Moash went back on his promise to be a bodyguard for Elokar. Yeah, you could argue that
Yeah.
as well.
This feels like the more straightforward version, personally.
Is it so
But
is
why
it
would
Kaladin protecting Moash against Dalinar?
Has Moash saved Kaladin's life?
Well, in the most straightforward scenario I'm thinking here, it's Kaladin standing against Dalinar, protecting Moash from Dalinar.
and I just can't
Okay.
see that specific scenario happening. How
Because
They'd have to get crazy
if
fun.
anyone is sparing Moash's life, it's Dalinar,
yes,
not
that's what I'm
Kaladin,
thinking
right?
too.
So
I
could it
mean, I feel
be?
like Kaladin would be the second one to do so after a whole lot of character development. But just because of the relationship between the two characters,
Sure.
right? Like there's just a lot of deep emotional investment in that. But what I can't get past is the one who killed my promises. Like are we sure that that's Moash and Kaladin? Because
No.
that popped into my head, but like there's got to be many other like potential things that could be there that in my head would make more sense as like a scenario rather than Kaladin protecting Moash from Dalinar. Does not seem that likely to me.
Promises to me means spren.
I mean, oath is a different word for promise,
Right.
right?
Right.
What is there a scenario where this could be Dalinar as Odium's champion? Is that possible?
And who's
Protect the
talking?
one who
Yes,
killed my promises. And it's
yes, that
Dalinar.
is
Is
possible.
Dalinar talking?
Dalinar as Odium's champion talking about standing against Paladin, perhaps? Is Odium the one who killed his promises somehow?
Okay, Kaladin is Honor's champion. Odium is
Yep.
Dalinar's Odium's
Yep.
champion. Could it be Kaladin
Correct.
talking? I stand against the one who saved my life. I protect the one who killed my promises.
I don't think this is Kaladin talking. I'm not convinced of that right now.
The the
I
the reason why I said that, which I disproved myself halfway through, but the reason why I said that was because at the end of Rhythm of War, Kaladin swears his fourth ideal to Dalinar,
that's true.
right?
I think so. So that's why I think that this is Dalinar talking though, because also doesn't Zeth swear his third ideal to Dalinar?
He
Like
swears
as
it about Dalinar.
yes, essentially.
Yeah.
And I could fully see the scenario being Dalinar is Odium's champion, and this whole all is withdrawn for me. Like everything at that point, if that were to happen, everything is kind of surrounding Dalinar. Like Dalinar is the linchpin, like the pinnacle point. He also fits the "I raise my hand, the storm responds," but I can't quite put the other pieces together like with a great deal of certainty. There's several like candidates, right? I stand against the one who saved my life. Did Taravangian ever save Dalinar's life? As a question, did who saved Dalinar's life?
You could maybe argue tangentially by joining the coalition first. Like that's a stretch though.
I mean, there's lots of people that Dalinar would probably be like, "You saved my life." Like, I feel like he would say that about Yasna, like reading to him whenever he's having his like meltdowns or whatever. I think he would say that about, I don't know, the night. Would you consider the cultivation or the Night Watcher whenever he took the memories of Evie away? Could you credit that to saving his life or something like drastic? If you wanted to
Maybe.
get really crazy there. I could also just see genuinely that piece, the one I stand against the one who saved my life. I could easily see that being a dramatic thing that happens, like in these other
Has
scenes.
yet to happen.
Yes, like I could easily see that piece not being known to us yet.
Okay.
I do feel like we should know that I protect the one who killed my promises, but I don't know.
And I feel like that's the one I know the least about.
Yeah.
Could this to go a different thought train on this? Could this anyhow be a herald? Are there any heralds who command the storm?
I assume Ishar and Yezrian
What if
can.
what if we're thinking about the wrong storm?
Oh,
Does this go a different direction? I don't know if that fits. Raise my hand, the storm responds. What if we're talking about the Everstorm? Who controls the Everstorm?
I couldn't tell you anybody besides Todium.
I was gonna say it could make some sense. It could make some sense as a Todium perspective. Of olives withdrawn from me, I stand against the one who saved my life.
Does
I
Moash ever
still
fit
am.
into this?
I'm just always so hung up on that. I protect the one who killed my promises
That
every
one,
time.
because we don't know either subject, it is
Yeah,
so frustrating. That one's frustrating. Because there's three people here. There's the speaker, the person behind the speaker, and the person in front of the speaker.
right.
Then there, if it's three people, it's definitely Shalon. She's all three characters, and
Shalon
Well played.
speaking to Vale, defending Radiant. Got it.
yes, defending Pattern probably. She'd be like, "Pattern, you killed my promises," and then get all mad about it, and then yeah, something like that. And I raised my hand at the storm response. She could be commanding Kaladin. She'd be like, raise her hand, and Kaladin, he's the storm, right? He responds. He like waves back, right? That's a response. The storm response.
And she
Anyways,
calls him Professor Stormface or whatever in the chasms. So there you go.
uh-huh. Yeah.
It's
It,
probably Kaladin, Dalinar speaking as Odium's champion to Kaladin. That is the most feasible one that fits to me.
I can see that. I can see that because so Dalinar would become. We're kind of assuming that Dalinar would become Odium's champion because of something he refuses to do. Whereas hypothetically, if you put Kaladin in the ring with anyone, I feel like he would have that kind of ruthlessness to not care, like to not worry about that, worry about the people he's protecting more so, right? So I could see him stepping in front of Dalinar like afterward as Dalinar is no longer Dalinar, he is Odium's champion. Kaladin like then standing to face Dalinar.
Yep.
Um
I
not
like
as a
that a lot,
friend,
actually.
as like a sense of duty. Um,
Yep.
that's the only way that I could see that engagement.
Is there any way we've seen this already?
No, I can't. I could
I
maybe.
was trying to think through that too. I was trying to think through if there's any scenes I can remember that would fit this in any way. I
Oh,
don't think so.
actually, actually, the only time that I can think of that you could, I think, fit something into this is the scene of Kaladin protecting Elokar from Moash. Because there's
Okay.
that scene in the bridge crew where like Moash kind of saves Kaladin's life, right? Isn't
Uh-huh.
there? I think there's a moment where he like tackles him or holds him back or something like that, or maybe it's vice versa. But anyways, I could see that being like I stating it's the one who saved my life. I protect the like somehow Elokar killed Kaladin's promises. I can't think of a specific example, but Elokar just being Elokar or something could kind of fit into there maybe. And then I raise my hand. The storm responds. And that's the moment where he pulls his hand out and summons Scylla's shard blade. So could be, but I don't think that's it. I don't think we've seen it. That's the only thing that pops into my head at all as a potential. Like, have we seen this?
Could this also fit the same characters just in Kolinar as opposed to at the end of Words of Radiance? No, not
So
really.
the storm, it's that last bit. The storm responds, seems to try and force us into some kind of a Kaladin or Dalinar scene, and yet it can't seem to make all the rest of the pieces fit if those are givens.
This one's gonna keep me up at night, I'll be honest.
I was gonna say this is the one that I'm most eager to like find resolution for. If you're
I
watching and you have
think
any really good ideas, please let us know
Absolutely on any
in
of
this
them.
one.
But
Yes, that is true on any of them.
I might be with your earlier comment, Paul. I'm not sure we have all the information on this one. I am not sure I can make all the pieces fit with the info that we have. I'm wondering if there's either a life that's going to be saved or a promise that's going to be killed in the future that we haven't seen yet that's going to be a prerequisite for this.
yeah, I would even lean towards more the second one. I protect the one who killed my promises. I could see us not knowing that yet.
That's really fair.
All right, gentlemen. I have one more bonus for you that is not on the outline. Stay tuned. I have an input from ranks from last week. I'm going to return to um, the chapter 54 epigraph, and it reads this: The burdens of 9 become mine. Why must I carry the madness of them all? O Almighty, release me. And if you remember from last week, we read this and pretty quickly dismissed it as toned, right?
Mm-hmm.
Ranks messaged us in our Patreon server, and I'll just go ahead and read it. Um, he says, I don't think this has happened yet. The obvious answer is Taln, but I don't really think death rattles are usually about the past. Also, Taln was grateful that he was the only one there, the gift that was given to men. Additionally, he was being tortured, which doesn't really relate to why must I carry the madness of them all. If he had said, why must I carry the torture of them all, or why must I carry the pain of them all, I would be more apt. However, madness is a specific malady that all the heralds have right now, and is a major plot point of Book 5. Remember that one herald is dead forever. There are only 9 now. I think that someone, Dalinar, will cure the herald's madness, at least temporarily, by taking on all 9 heralds' madness into themselves. Dalinar is known for saying almighty and is getting very good at manipulating connection, capital C. Thank you, Ranks. What do you guys think?
I like revisiting this because I think we might have missed a part of this. I certainly did, which is the Almighty. Oh, Almighty, release me. Would Pound really use that as a term? Maybe not. Maybe not. And so, kind of taking a broader look at this, might actually be a really good idea here. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I think Rank's line of thought there makes sense. That seems like a plausible path. Definitely, that would definitely be a pivotal part of book 5 if Dalinar were to somehow take on the madness of the heralds, like story planet altering event. I would think.
And then becomes Odium's champion.
Oh goodness. Oh goodness gracious.
Interesting. Um,
But then think about, like, people like Nail that are very crazy in still a lucid functioning manner, but very off and making decisions and actions based on that very offness. If he was cured of that, if all of a sudden we got a Nail who is in pursuit of a more, this is going to be the wrong term, but honorable or right source of laws or actions and things like that, think of the power, the influence he could have on this battle that we're having here. It could be Dalinar becomes the madness of all, serves Odium, but now we have 9 heralds that are back to doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
yeah, like Ishar, I'm thinking of as well as one that like
Yeah.
is mad, like madness, but like could be such a powerful asset, right? And all of them. So
With,
I really, really like that theory. And the only thing, honestly, the Almighty doesn't really seal it for me. But what makes me think it's more feasible is actually pointing out that Talon, I don't know that he would really say like, "Why must I carry the madness of them all?" Like he was like kind of glad to provide time, if that makes sense. Obviously, it was horrible, but like he expressed how like grateful he was for the time that he was able to provide afterwards, you know.
right.
So that does make some sense to me.
Something else that I just realized. It is attached to the chapter Gibletish, chapter 54, and that is the only chapter that Hoyd pulls Dalinar aside and asks him if he knows about Adonalsium. Seems like a really random scene, but if you pull it out of context, it's really interesting. Like Hoyd is just like pulls Dalinar aside and says, basically he says, "Are you a world hopper?" And Dalinar's like, "What?" And Hoyd's like, "Never mind, carry on your way." So that, I don't know, that's an interesting addition to this.
A crazy theory if that were to come true. Like
I
that would change everything.
I also like that way more than the just it is just Talon, because that's been my number one thing is I want to see our heralds like in their like splendor
Right.
kind of thing. You know, like I really want to see that.
All right. With that, we can conclude our detour back to the Wave Kings for these death rattles. Any last words, Paul or Elliot?
Not here. I love this kind of theory spinning and trying to dive into the what could possibly happen. And the fact that Brandon can plant such nuggets so early in his work.
Yeah.
One, impressive, two, a lot of fun.
I agree. The fact that we can spend so much time and spend so many crazy theories about like the little offhanded sentence before the chapter that isn't really part of the story, you know, like looking back at that is pretty nuts. But honestly, I think this is one of the funnest types of episodes that we do. It's just really fun to just basically spend the whole time spitting theories or thinking about what we've seen. So I love it.
All right. Moving forward, we will be doing more Stormlight current episodes sprinkled in with as we catch up on the Cosmere leading up to Stormlight 5. If you have an idea for either a question or a character or some sort of Stormlight related content that you would like to have us cover, please comment below or email us or get in contact with me at somehow. I'm fairly active on the Discord as well. if you have something that you'd like us to cover, let me know. I'm very open to lots of different formats for these Stormlight current episodes. So if you have an idea there, let us know, and expect some more of these in the future. Thanks for joining me, Paul and Elliot.
Yeah.
As always.